second graders. Welcome back to your TV classroom. Today is Friday, January 15th. How are you? How has your week been? Great, I've had a great week too. Well, before we get started today, let's go ahead and check in with our zone. So take a really good inventory of yourself right now. How are you feeling? You know, Gus, I was just telling Mr. Kevin and Miss Oslin I was feeling grumpy, and I wasn't sure why. I just felt, Have you ever felt before? And then I realized that last night I didn't sleep very well, and I think it's making so I'm not managing problems very well in my brain. Now, I can't fix that I didn't get very much sleep, but I still have to be working and be productive and be kind, right? So I'm going to have to work extra hard today at knowing that my reactions might be a little bit strong, and before I react, I need to take some deep breaths. I can't fix what caused me to feel grumpy today, but I can fix how I react to my feeling. So before we start, I'm going to take some big, deep breaths. And I'm also going to tell myself it's okay that I feel grumpy. Sometimes we feel like guilty because we feel a certain way and we don't need to. So it's okay that I'm grumpy and I can still be respectful in how I react.
And Miss Wally?
Yes.
We know that we can do hard things.
It's true, we can. And sometimes being grumpy feels really hard. So I'm going to do the best I can to be happy and joyful and kind today to the people I work with and to my family when I get home and you, my TV classroom. So let's get started. It's Fact Fun Friday. So I'm going to show you an equation and I want you to think, what is the answer? Now, before we start, I want you to know that when I was in second grade, anytime someone said fact, my brain went all wobbly and wiggly and I just couldn't, it just like, well, I can't do my facts, I don't know them. So know that that's an okay feeling, but you can do them because you have strategies and you're a strong mathematician. I have a hair in my mouth, that doesn't feel very good. All right, fix that problem. Now, let's take a look at our first fact. 17 minus 5. Now your brain might be going, I can't do it, I don't have 17 fingers. Stop. There is a 7 in the ones place. Hang on, I'm going to get my ink color. There's a 7 in the ones place, and I need to take away 5 ones. Can I take 5 ones away from 7? And then how many ones do I have left? 2. And then I do 10 plus 2 is 12. You knew it. Do you see how you don't have to have it memorized in order to know the fact fluently? Now, if you have it memorized, that's great. I'm so happy that you have it memorized. But if not, there are ways to fluently figure it out. 17 minus 7, what is it? You got it, it's 10. That one was fast. You just 7 ones minus 7 ones and there's 10 left. 17 minus 9. Well, in 9, there's a 7 and a 2. So 17 minus 7 is 10. Minus 2 more is, you got it, it's 8. 18 minus 6. Did you say 12? Great job. I knew this because I took the 8 ones and subtracted 6 ones, and I got 2 ones left over, and 10 plus 2 is 12, just like I did back here with 17 minus 5. Now that's interesting. Pebble said, well, Mrs. Wally, there's 7 and 5, and then 8 and 6. Each of these went up by 1. This was plus 1, and this side was plus 1, and the difference remained the same. That's interesting, isn't it? 18 minus 14. What is it? Did you say 4? How did you figure it out? You might have done 18 minus 10 and then 8 minus 4. Or you might have done what I did and did 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It's 4. I used the count on strategy because these numbers were really close together. All different ways. And you might have just known it. Okay, today we're learning strategies. No, we are not learning strategies to solve problems involving time. Where did that come from, Mrs. Wally? I'm telling you, today has not been my day. Today, we are doing tens and ones. Okay? So, let's take a look. Show each number with base 10 blocks and then tell how many tens and ones. So we started working with tens and ones yesterday, and now we're continuing on. I'm hoping that my learning target and success criteria at the end are correct. If not, we will just roll with it and it will be okay. So 43. I want you with your whiteboard. If you have base 10 blocks, please use them now. I want you either to draw or show with your base 10 blocks 43 in tens and ones. You do it. Mr. Kevin, can you show my whiteboard? Okay, and the PowerPoint too, please. We're doing all three today. So on my whiteboard, you can see that I have 4 tens and 3 ones. I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43. Now this problem says 43 is blank tens. Now this is where kids tend to get confused because it's confusing. 43, is it 40 tens or 4 tens? Because when I count, it's 10, 20, 30, 40. What do you think, Gus? You think it's 4 tens? Why do you think it's 4 tens? Gus said it's 4 tens, Mrs. Wally, because I have 4 sticks of 10. Oh, and 40 is how many ones it is if I was to count all the blocks. What do you think at home? Do you agree with Gus or disagree with Gus? How many tens do I have here? I'm going to give you another hint. How many 10 sticks do you see? Yeah, it's 4 tens and 3 ones. 4 tens and 3 ones. Awesome. Okay, now it says to do 27. So how are we going to build 27? What do we need to build 20? 2 10 sticks. There's a hint. 2 10 sticks. And how many 1 cubes? 7. 10, 20, 7. So how many tens do I have? Do I have 2 tens or 20 tens? If this is 1 10, how many tens do I have? 1 10, 2 tens. 27 is 2 tens, and how many 1 cubes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ones. And I think the reason students get confused is because this is a 10, but it equals 10. And this is a 1 and equals 1, and I'm counting just one of these. So it feels like you should count these and have 20 of these. So it gets confusing. But you have to remember, this is one group of 10. And I'm asking here, when I say tens, I'm asking how many groups of 10 are in the number 27. How many groups of 10 are in the number 27? 1 group, 2 groups. Let's go on to the next one. It says to count the picture. I'm going to build the picture, and we're going to count it with the actual blocks. If you have hundreds, you don't need to draw it if you don't have base 10 blocks. But if you have them, build it. Are you ready? How much is this worth? 100. How much is this one worth? 100. And how much is this one worth? 100. Okay, so we're going to count how many hundreds we have. This is 100. Okay, 100, 200s, because there's 2 of them. What's next? How many hundreds do I have in the number 300? How many of these squares do I have? 1, 2. Yes, there are 300s in the number 300. Okay? Okay. So how many hundreds equals 300? Well, here's 300. I've built 300. How many hundreds are there? 1, 2, 3. 3 hundreds equals the number 300. If I take 3 of these and I build it, my total quantity, when I put them together, there are 300 of these little squares. Now, I'm not going to sit here and count them all because that would take a long time and we have work to do. But if you're at home and you're looking for something to do and you have base 10 blocks, I would challenge you to count and see if that actually makes the number 300. Do you think we can do it? Gus, do you think we can do it? Let's figure out what's in this picture. I'm going to build it with mine, what I see there on the picture. Okay. Here we go. First of all, let's figure out what we have. 100, 200, 300, 310, 320, 321, 322, 323, 324, 325. And look at that. It says 325. So I know I've built the right number. Now I have to figure out how many hundreds, how many tens, and how many ones. So now I'm going to count the blocks. How many of these 100 blocks do I have? Do I have 300 of these blocks? No. How many blue squares do I have? 1, 2, 300 squares. So I have 300s. 1, 2, 3. Okay. How many 10 sticks do I have? How many groups of 10 do I have? 1, 2. Let's check here. 1, 2 groups of 10. Okay. 2 groups of 10. How many ones do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 groups of 1. It's kind of hard to think about 1 as a group, but these are groups of 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does 300s equal 300? Mm-hmm. Does 2 10s equal 20? Yep. Does 5 ones equal 5? Yeah, so I have 325. Awesome. Okay, I want you to try this one on your own. It's 325, but this time you have to figure out how many 10s and 1s there are. Tricky. See if you can figure it out. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Mr. Kevin, how long have I been going for? 13 minutes. Thank you. Has anyone figured out yet how many 10s are in this box right here? You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 10s in this box. So that's a clue to help you. Okay, how many 10s did you count? It should be 32. 10 groups of 10, 20 groups of 10, 30 groups of 10, 31 groups of 10, 32 groups of 10. And how many ones? 5. 5 ones. So how does this model and this model help you think of the number 325? Turn and tell your learning buddy. How do these two models help you understand the number 325? Well, Gus, it helped me realize that these numbers are made of ones and then we've grouped them into quantities. Like we put the ones and we put 10 together, and 325, the number, stands for the number of ones total. And then when I group them, I can group them into tens and ones or hundreds, tens and ones, and that helps me understand how big the number is. Why do you think, friends, they put boxes around these tens? Why are they there? Yeah, they're there because they're showing that this is a group of 100 ones, which is 10 tens or 100, right? So they were helping us by showing the groups of 100, right? 100, 200, 300, 25. You see it? Pretty cool, huh? All right. Now, look at this place value chart. How many hundreds? I want you to go back to this picture right here. I'm gonna put it up so you can see it. I'm gonna go back to this picture. In the hundreds place, how many hundred squares are there? There's 3 of them. How many tens groups are there? There's 2 of them. And how many groups of 1 are there? There's 5 of them. Okay, so 300, oh wait, wrong number. Sorry, friends. I was doing that number instead of, I was doing the next number. So this, 300 is 3 hundreds, right? 0, how many groups of 10? 0. And how many groups of 1? 0. Now, 325 is 3 hundreds, 2 groups of 10, and 5 groups of 1. You see? And then look at that. Now we have our number 325, which has 3 groups of 100, 2 groups of 10, and 5 groups of 1. That's how we make the number 325. What is the same about this place value chart and my base 10 blocks? What's the same about them? Mr. Kevin, can we get my whiteboard up again real quick? What is the same about these place value blocks and the hundreds chart on the left? Private think time. What's the same? Go ahead and share with your learning buddy. What are you noticing is the same? Pebble's noticing. Pebble's telling Gus, I notice that there are 3 groups of 100 in the blue squares, and in the place value box, it says that there's 3 hundreds. So this place value must mean how many groups of 100 are there in the number? How many groups of 10? It says 2, and on here there's 2 groups of 10. And how many groups of 1? There's 5 groups of 1. So this place value block chart is telling us how many groups of each place value there are. Pretty great, Pebble. Nice job. Now I want you to show the number 606. You get to choose how you want to do it. Do you want to do it using place value drawings? Do you want to do it using a place value chart? Do you want to do it using words? 600s, blank 10s, blank 1s. Ready? I'm going to give you 30 seconds and go. Mr. Kevin, you can hide my board for just a moment while I... Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kevin. You needed to do one of these ways. Take a look. You could either have shown 606 with place value blocks, either building it or drawing it. You could have done 600s, 010s, and 61s, or you could have done it in a place value chart. You could have written hundreds, but I just did HT0 or HTO for shorthand to save time. 6 groups of 100, 0 groups of 10, 6 groups of 1. That's how you would have shown it. Let's take a look at your assignment today. Your assignment is to do page 313 and 314. That is more of this same work, okay? Practicing using those base 10 blocks, helping you figure out 3-digit numbers. Now, I just looked and my learning check is telling time. I'm not sure what happened. So today, we practiced using place value to understand numbers in the hundreds. Did we model them? Yep. Did we use numbers to explain it? Yep. Did we find solutions? Yes. So we did all the things we needed to do. Excellent job, second graders. Now, before you go, you will need to get your ELA packet, your pencil, and your learning buddy for your time with Miss Oslin. Up next will be your break. Please take a break, take care of your needs, and make sure by the time the break is over that you are ready to learn. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye.
I'm Denise Dillenbeck, concertmaster of the Northwest Sinfonietta, and I'm here to share a moment of music and breath with you today. Let's take a moment to get centered together before we listen to music. Put one hand on your heart and the other on your belly. Now, breathe in for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold your breath at the top for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do that together one more time. Feel free to close your eyes if you'd like. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. We are living through turbulent times. If you sometimes feel the sadness during all the challenges of this school year, you are not alone. When I'm sad, I turn to music to give my heart a lift. This piece by J.S. Bach is one of the happiest pieces I know. I first heard it on Sesame Street when I was a little girl, and it made me want to play the violin. It's called Gavotte en Rondo, and it's a dance music from Bach's time. If I were to think of words to describe how this music makes me feel, I would say jaunty and joyous. Now you try to think of a word that describes the feeling of the music while I play it for you. If you have room around you, you can also try making your own dance to this music. See what feels right to you.
Hi, second graders. Welcome back from your break. I see that you have gathered your materials, you have your learning buddy, and you are ready to go. I also want to ask you if you have the other graphic organizers that we've been working on in our letter writing unit, make sure you have those around you as well. Because we're going to continue learning about letter writing. Today we're going to learn that letter writers know that if they are writing to a specific person, they need to collect ideas for that letter. And we talked earlier this week about how before you begin writing a letter, you need to select an addressee. That's a fancy way to say, who is it to? And you need to have a purpose or a reason for writing your letter. So now that we have an addressee and we have a purpose, excuse me, we're going to work on collecting ideas to include in our letter. And in your ELA packet, I want you to find page 21. This is a graphic organizer called My Letter to the Author. And we're going to use this and we're going to fill it out, and it's going to help us collect information that we need to help us write a really fantastic letter to an author. And you might choose to write your letter to an author of one of the books that we have read. So go ahead and take a moment and get this chart out in front of you with your name and the date at the top. All right, so the first column is about my author. And so this is thinking about the author that you are selecting, my favorite books the author has written, and interesting facts about his or her life. The second column is feelings and opinions about the author's books. So your favorite book you wrote is, my favorite book you wrote is, because, or my least favorite book is, because. Next, you're going to think about questions you want to ask. And you might remember that we have talked about why we ask questions in a letter. And it's to give characters voices, which really isn't the purpose of this letter, but it could be to encourage a response. That we've learned that letters are like conversations, except they're on paper. We write a letter to our favorite author, and we hope that they write us back. And one way to get them to write us back is to ask questions. We could also ask questions to be conversational, like I said, to get news. Maybe you're wondering, what is a project that you're working on right now? Maybe they'll tell you about a book that they're working on now before anyone else knows about it. Wouldn't that be exciting? To invite or make arrangements, to reflect or recall, to request something, to make readers stop and think, to get the reader's attention, or to maybe make them change their mind. I don't know. And then you also want to think about things you want to share about your life. And a sentence frame might start with, I really like to, or did you know I, So these are things that I want you thinking about as we look at some of our texts that we have read about letter writing. Now, you'll remember in A Letter from Phoenix Farm by Jane Yolen, we learned that all kinds of information about Jane Yolen, and if she were the author you wanted to write to, you would have to go no further than this book to collect that information, because she talks all about how she spends her day as a writer. She talks all about, like she goes to the post office and she gets tons of letters. So if we were going to write to her, we could just go into her book to get some questions, some answers to our questions. So we would have to be really creative to think about what other questions we could ask her. But we could say, Dear Jane Yolen, you're my favorite author because, or my favorite book that you have written is, because, You could also think about what you would want to share with her. Maybe you have a connection with her. Maybe you're also an author. You are, and you could share with her the projects that you are working on and maybe ask for advice. Oh, you know what would be super exciting that I just thought of is you could send the author Jane Yolen a copy of your work, a copy of your writing, and ask for her to give you feedback, to give you ideas for ways to improve or make it better from a real author, a published author. That would be neat. Another way to find out additional facts about an author like Jardine Nolan, who wrote our book Plantzilla, is often books will have an about the author or an author's note within the front jacket or the back jacket of the book. And I didn't actually have this book in my hands to look at, but another way to do some research about your author is to look online. And of course, you would want to make sure that you have an adult's help and support when you do this. And you want to make sure that the resources or the websites that you're looking at to gather information are accurate. So I went to our author, Jardine Nolan's website, her website. So I know it's accurate because it's information that she has posted and put online about herself. And I found this picture of her. This is our author. She wrote Plantzilla. And she has on her website an about the author subject line. So I clicked on that section and I found some really interesting information. This is a lot of text, so don't worry about reading it. But it says, I was born in Crystal Springs, Mississippi. She was raised in Chicago. She has 5 brothers and 2 sisters. That's a big family. I can relate to that. I also come from a big family. She says, my siblings and I had a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun together growing up in a large family. You always have someone to play with. I can relate to that as well. You could always get a good softball game going or playing Red Rover, which is one of her favorite games. She loved going on exploring expeditions around our home. She says, even then, I had a wild imagination, which makes me think, I wonder if that's where her idea for Plantzilla came from, is from her wild imagination. She goes on to say, I can't remember a time when I wasn't writing and collecting words. So our author, Jardine Nolan, has always been a writer. She's been writing since she was little. Her mother encouraged her to do that. She was eager to hear her new list of favorite words. She collected a list of favorite words. Now, this makes me think about our chart, and a question I might ask Jardine Nolan is, what are some of the words that were on your favorite words chart? So I'm going to add that question to my chart. Think about if you were going to write to Jardine Nolan, what questions do you have? What are you thinking about her that you would want to include in your letter? Like maybe, I know that you have been a writer from a young age. What words were on your list of favorite words? You could also talk about what are your feelings and opinions about the book Plantzilla that you could include. Take some think time. What can you add to this chart if you were going to write to our author, Jardine Nolan? Take a moment. Tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Gus, I'm thinking that I want to include on my chart that I know that Jardine Nolan has been a writer since she was a little girl. And I want to ask her about the words that were on her list of favorite words. And then maybe I'll share something like, I like to collect words too. Now, you take a moment and add whatever it is that you wanted to include in your letter to Jardine Nolan. now that I'm writing this, I'm also wondering if she, as an adult author, still keeps a list of favorite words. So I'm going to add that question too. I wonder if asking these questions will help encourage a response also. Okay, go ahead and finish up. And if I am not giving you enough time to finish all of your thoughts, that's okay. When you're doing your independent work, you can continue to add to this chart. Now, some other things that I learned about Jardine Nolan on her website is she went on to say that stories help us examine and shape the world we live in. Stories give us hopeful answers and insights to questions no one person can answer on their own. Stories help us share our lives. This is what I love about being a writer. So she uses stories, things made up from her wild imagination, to give answers and insights to questions that no one can answer on their own. And these stories help her share her life. That's interesting. I wonder, here's another question I could ask, is when we read Plantzilla, what part of her life was she sharing with us? She says she received a BA, that's a Bachelor's of Arts degree, that's a college degree in special education from Northeastern Illinois University. She was a teacher, a special education teacher. That's amazing. That's a connection I have with her. And she received a master's in education in interdisciplinary arts education, also in Chicago. She's been an educator for a number of years as a classroom teacher, a curriculum writer, a staff developer, family involvement specialist, and administrator. That's a principal. I didn't know that. She was a principal. That is so neat. Now I'm thinking of all these connections that I have with her, and I have so many questions about her life as a teacher and a principal. And I wonder if any of the characters in her books were inspired by students that she had or teachers that she worked with. That's exciting. She also enjoys lecturing on a variety of topics related to books and the writing process. Now, we know that one purpose of asking questions is to invite or make arrangements. So I wonder if we ask if she would be willing to come talk to us about being a writer, if she would be able to do that. That would really encourage a response as well. Let's look at another text. I'm so excited about Jardine Nolan, and I just learned so much about her. And I would really love for she and I, or you and her, to write back and forth and start a conversation about her experiences as a teacher and as a writer. But let's look at another book that we have read together, The Day the Crayons Quit, and the author is Drew Daywalt. And again, I didn't have this book in my hands, so I went to the author's website and I found a picture of our author. And I did not expect our author to look like this. I don't know what I expected, but he has pictures of a bunch of different books that he has written. And on his website, I learned that ever since his childhood in Ohio, author Drew Daywalt has been creating escapist fantasy, horror, and comedy. With a BFA, that's another bachelor's degree, in creative writing, Drew set off to Hollywood, where he wrote for Disney and Universal on Timon and Pumbaa. Have you ever seen that show? The author of The Day the Crayons Quit helped write that TV show. What? He also wrote Buzz Lightyear and Woody Woodpecker. Have you seen those shows? I didn't know that this author also wrote television shows. He also wrote the Emmy-nominated animated series, The Wacky World of Tex Avery. Now, I haven't heard of that, but I'm curious because I like Timon and Pumbaa and I like Buzz Lightyear and I like The Day the Crayons Quit. I wonder if I would always also like that TV show. So now I want to go check that out. Daywalt has also written a Star Wars book for Lucasfilm Publishing called BB-8 on the Run. So my kids love Star Wars. They love Star Wars books. So now I want to write to Drew and ask him all about writing this Star Wars book and see if a lot of it came from his own imagination or if he used a lot of information from the Star Wars movies or TV shows that are already out. It goes on to say he has received 65 awards for his children's writing, including the coveted E.B. White Read Aloud Award for at the time and the Time Magazine Top 100 Best Children Books of All Time. So he's received a lot of awards. So if we go back to our chart and if we were going to write to him, we could include information about his awards. We could include feelings and opinions about the day the crayons quit. We could use sentence frame. My favorite book you wrote is The Day the Crayons Quit because it's really funny and I like how the crayons have emotions much like me. Or we could say my least favorite book is because. I have so many questions, I bet you do too, that we could ask him. And things I want to share about my life. So this is where I might include information about my kids loving Star Wars. That would include the questions that we have, and see if he writes us back. So exciting. So today, your job is to complete the graphic organizer, My Letter to the Author. Now, maybe you want to continue adding to ideas that you have that you want to include in a letter to Jardine Nolan. Maybe you now have information and thinking that you want to do about writing to Drew Daywalt, or maybe you have your own book at home or from the library that you want to write to that author. So I'm going to give you some think time to think about who you're going to complete your graphic organizer about. You're going to think about what do you already know about the author, or where are you going to find information? Think about the feelings and opinions that you have about your author's book, what questions you want to ask, and things you want to share about your life. And if you're forgetting those 5 things, it's all right here on the graphic organizer. So take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Gus, I think I'm going to continue my graphic organizer and planning a letter to Jardine Nolan, just because I have so many connections with her as a teacher, and I thought her book Plantzilla was really creative, and now I'm really curious about other books that she's written. So that's what I'm going to continue to add to, because I still have more questions about her being a teacher and a principal and where she got her inspiration for Plantzilla and the families in that book. Oh, and Mr. Lester, the teacher. I wonder if she knew or worked with a teacher that was like that. Now, second graders, your independent work today is to really collect a lot of information about the author that you have chosen to plan a letter to. Because today we learned that letter writers know that if they're writing to a specific person, they need to collect ideas for that letter. And this graphic organizer is going to help us organize our thinking so that we have a lot to say in our letter to hopefully encourage a response from our author. Now, you have lots of tools from your phonics that can help you be a strong writer. Don't forget to find powerful word patterns to help you write words correctly all the way through. You have your troublemaker words. You have your tackle a word chart that can help you continue to read and write like a grown-up reader and writer. You also have your snap words book. Make sure when you're writing, if you notice that you're writing a snap word and you're not exactly sure how it's spelled, use your snap words book to help you. And if you're finding that you have a lot of troublemaker words, add them to your book so that you can read and write them in a snap. I want to know who you're writing to, so make sure that you let me know. You can send me an email. You can send me a copy of the letter that you're writing. There's our email address. I want to know. And if the author writes you back, I want to know that too. I'm so curious and excited. So, second graders, before I send you off to do your independent writing and your independent reading today, I want to remind you that today is Friday, and on Monday, January 18th, that's this coming Monday, there is no school. We have the opportunity to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who worked really hard for our civil rights. And there's no time like the present than to celebrate and uplift these civil rights activists who have done so much for our country. So take the day to honor the people who worked really hard to give us the rights and the people in our community who deserve equal rights. So we will see you back here in our classroom on Tuesday. But before I send you off, your affirmation, the positive, uplifting words that we're going to give ourselves, the encouragement is, I can do hard things. And I know we say this one a lot, but I think it's really important, and I need to remind myself that I can do hard things. So take a deep breath and practice saying it with me. I can do hard things. Excellent job reading and writing and thinking with me today. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday back here in our TV classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.